I'm currently based in the Netherlands, where I'm working as an associate reader at the Design Academy in Eindhoven, within the readership of Places and Traces. I'm also working in Paris, so every week I have to travel between the Netherlands and France, where I teach to design students and research and development methods and collective works. I also collaborate in Paris with an experimental program in arts and politics at the University of Political Science, and I have my studio in Maastricht as I'm a participant at the fellow at the Van Eyck Academy. At the same time, I also try to practice as a designer, as an architect, as a professional, and in the last year I've been working on a couple of exhibition design. This one is in Karlsruhe, it's at KM, Germany. It's a show that was created by Bruno Latour and his Parisian team, let's say. And it was about modernity. We were invited to bring that show to Shanghai in May by Hans-Ulrich Obrist, and instead of bringing the show, we designed something completely different. So we basically made a disposable copy of all the works and then organized a table through which we could discuss issues related to modernity and the crisis of modernity and so on. Okay, I'm saying all of this because I see tourism as, first of all, mobility, and I am in constant movement and between, as I said, Maastricht, Paris, and Eindhoven every week, and also in the last few months working in Shanghai, and before that working in Germany. And at the same time, that mobility is applied to the content of which I work. For example, in this case, materials from Europe travel to materials that represent actually illustrate philosophical argument, even related to modernity in Europe, travel to Asia, and they had to be received by a completely different public. So for me, tourism is not just, let's say, a consumption of local heritage or historical heritage. It's also traveling, it's being on the move ourselves and receiving images and content that's constantly traveling. And around these objects, what I do and what I will try to do here during this today is around these materials also of the exhibition. What I try to do is always structure a sort of discussion on a gathering. And this is what I see in my work, at least, is the role of material culture, design, art, architecture, is, yeah, exactly, to structure a gathering, structure a coming together discussion. So, to sum it up, my interest, my expertise, my background is in architecture and urbanism. My practice, though, overlaps with design and artistic research and practice. And everything I do tend to be engaged politically or socially. I will just briefly show a couple of projects that I think relates to the approach that I would like to propose during these days. The first one is field work that that I started last April in what I call European realism. And the word realism here plays, of course, both on the idea of an idealized rendition, faithful rendition of what it is there, like what it is to be within the EU, and also the motto that if you want to be realistic, there's no alternative to the current state of affairs. So what I did was I made a list of sites that I thought relate to the idea of European realism, and the first one was the Eurosculpture in Frankfurt, which is placed just outside the former headquarters of the European Central Bank. It's the work of an actual artist, but it's also a very controversial thing in itself that has a life of its own. And what I'm particularly fascinated by is that this, I think it's fascinating for many reasons. maybe first of all because it flattens image, materiality, and language, and Euro becomes basically just the monodimensional representation of its most abstract achievement, money, but it's also its most ubiquitous presence, which is cash. But yeah, but let's move on. So this is what I mean when I say that for me, design, art, and architecture, material culture in general, objects, souvenirs, maybe postcards, images of a territory can structure a gathering. This is a picture from, actually, it's a picture from the 18th century when Grand Tour was really popular, like the prototype of every guided tour, contemporary guided tour. And the Grand Tour used to happen in Southern Europe. I mean, yeah, the wealthy Englishmen, as in this case, would travel to Southern Europe and would gather around pieces of art or classical antiquities and so on. And those pieces would structure their coming together. But yeah, I mean, it's not the wealthy Englishman that's interesting, it's more what material culture can do to our how material culture can unfold our gatherings. So, and in parallel to the fieldworks in Frankfurt and in the Brandplatz, where the monument that I just showed is, I also started to work with the House of European History, which is a museum that just opened in Brussels, and it basically draws on the idea that it's possible to, let's say, represent and itemize even a common history for a European project, history that people can share. And that history, maybe again, is best represented when we look at the cash. It's parallel to the monument. Every bridge on these banknotes is fictional. So like, you see there is a narrative, a linear narrative from Greek, from Roman civilization, actually, sorry, to Middle Ages, to neoclassicism, modernity, contemporaneity, and so on. But this narrative is not shared by everybody in Europe. Maybe we can even talk between us if everything recognizes itself as a heir of a Greek civilization. Or, yeah. So, but again, so the European Union then really starts to look like weak and empty in objects and things that we can use to think and to speak about. This is why, as part of the cultural program of the, like the monument is last month, but this is last year. This is why, but for the same reason as when I was part of the cultural program of the Netherlands presidency of the European Council in Amsterdam, like the presidency moves from one member state to another every 6 months, and every member state tries to have a cultural program, and this time is in Amsterdam. I built a sort of canopy, a hut, cabin, which I saw as the unsolicited extension of the museum that I showed a couple of slides, the museum in Brussels. I tried to gather material, political objects that could testify of a everyday political life that's not idealized in that linear narrative from Greece to techno, or like transparent facades and so on. And I organized the event, and I actually asked people around the world to contribute objects, and I built it from salvage material from the migrant camp in Italy, which I went to visit the volunteers. I will skip a few slides. And then we move to another project, which is an example of how I see itineraries also could be built around controversies or issues even, and in the context of our more critical touristic experience. So this is a project that I did actually in Ljubljana in 2014 for the biennial, for the 24th Design Biennial, and it's an invitation to cross the city and the tour in the city, following choreographies found in laws that regulate public assembly and the behaviors in public spaces from a variety of political and geographical contexts around the world. So, for example, I sampled from US legislations, Italian police regulations, acts from Australia, and so on, and I tried to identify the quantitative information within them when it was done. And so the distances, for example, that people have to keep from buildings or between themselves, the number that they cannot reach, or the level of noise that they cannot make, and so on. And I also started to look on the media and around me, actually, at ready-made choreographies, found performance objects, let's say, that I could somehow codify and then relate to specific legal codes. So I did this research combining choreography, performance, law, urban regulations, and itineraries. And so this is just a collection, and in several cities, for example, this is in Melbourne, Australia, we I engaged participants. This is the A in the Netherlands, and this is last week in New York. Yeah, so basically, we every time is different. Sometimes it's a workshop, and we work on new rules, on new laws. Sometimes it's a performance. In this case, it was more like a psychogeographic, or an exploration of the city of New York, the surrounding, around Bowery. This was hosted by the museum, so we went around Bowery. Following the instructions on these foldable sort of booklet. So, like every number is associated to law and to diagram, and every diagram is an instruction on how to move, and the law is the actual regulation. And this was in The Hague last year, for example. So people could just start from Square, for example. Yeah, it's 30 minutes. I have it on my computer. Yeah, just like a prompt to start exploring the city, following cues that are not usual flags of tourist guide. This is the structure of the 2 days. It's every day we will start with a presentation of. Well, today we will start with an introduction from each of us, and then I will give a presentation about monument in particular. Then we will do some desk research and discussions, and maybe, if you like, we can use also some mapping method to see what possibilities are there in the city. And then we do some field work, and in the afternoon we develop, so this is called very quick, and between the morning and the early afternoon. And then the most part of the afternoon should be devoted to developing actual idea, prototypes, provocations. I will go Maybe I will just explain a little bit the title in the remaining 20 seconds. Support structures for thinking heritage. Support structure comes from the work of Céline Ponderelli, who's an artist, who defined them as what bears, sustains, props, and holds up. Those things that encourage deep comfort, approval, and solace, that care for and provide consolation and the necessities of life, that which assists, corroborates, advocates, articulates, substantiates, and so on. And these are some of the examples that she adds in the book of this structure. And they are basically, for us, a parallel to what podiums, pedestals are in the city. They are not there only to elevate something or someone to let's say, a higher hierarchical level. They are there also to bear, sustain, prop, and result us and our coming together.